Hello, and today I will be talking about equilibrium and its definition in terms of physics. Equilibrium is when all the forces acting upon an object are equal. There are two types of equilibrium, the first being static and the second being dynamic. In static equilibrium, the forces acting upon an object are equal so that the net force is zero and that there is no movement. Take note that in static equilibrium there is no movement. And a good example of this is sitting on a chair because you have the person in the chair with gravity pulling them down, and the chair pushes back. So the chair pushes back just as much as gravity pulls the person down. In dynamic equilibrium, the forces acting upon the object are equal, so that there is no acceleration in the system. This seems weird to some people because you think to yourself, if it's equilibrium and everything's equal, then why is the object moving? Well, the object can be moving in equilibrium because the forces, like a pulling force and the weight of the object, can be equal so that there's no acceleration. Because when you start pulling harder on it, you get faster and faster. And the harder you pull, the faster you go. So, which is an example of unbalance or imbalance. And a great example of dynamic equilibrium would be terminal velocity, which is when the force of air resistance on a falling object equals the force of gravity so that it stops accelerating. That's easy to remember because no acceleration. Some visual descriptions would be, for static equilibrium, a book on a table. You can see that the force of gravity pulling down on the book is equal to the normal force pushing up with the table. You can see that the normal equals gravity, and therefore there is no vertical movement. And it's always very important to remember that static equilibrium, there is no movement. With the second type of equilibrium, as I said before, the good example is terminal velocity. As you see in the picture, there is a bowling ball falling from the sky, and of course everything moving through air encounters air resistance. So once the force of air resistance equals the force of gravity, then it stops accelerating, and therefore the forces are in equilibrium. And you can also think that the bowling ball is still moving through the air. So that reassures you that there can be movement in systems that have equilibrium.